We continue in Genesis chapter 20 today, and we continue from where we left off. We left off in verse 5. In Genesis 20, verse 6 to 10, we will read today. And God said unto him in a dream. Now, who is him? Abimelech. That's where we left him off. Abimelech had just said something to God in a vision. And God said unto him in a dream, Yes, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet. And he shall pray for you, and you shall live. And if you restore her not, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told all those things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? And what have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought never be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham again, What sawest thou, that thou hast done this thing? Wow. Back in verse 5, Abimelech said, In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this. He was replying to God, when God told him to restore Sarah back to Abraham. Now, to what Abimelech said in verse 5, God answered, Yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, but I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I you not to touch her. Folks, God acknowledged the king's integrity, but definitely not his innocence. God prevented Abimelech from even approaching Sarah. You know, I was just thinking this, and it's not in the Bible, but I believe Sarah was already pregnant with Isaac. Abraham still didn't have enough faith, did he, that God would bring it to pass? And I wonder if Sarah did too. So, Abraham did it again. He passed Sarah off as his sister instead of his wife. But we'll continue here. In verse 7, we read that. Restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet. In verse 7, we see another first. After all, we're in the book of the beginnings, aren't we? Genesis. Or in the other languages around the world, the first book of Moses. God orders Abimelech to restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for you, and you shall live, and if you restore her not, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours. Here we have the first use of the word prophet. Did you realize that in the Bible? The first use of the word prophet in the Bible. Although we may often associate being a prophet as one who foretells the future, here, a prophet is God's spokesperson, conveying his words by divine inspiration to mankind. Come to think of it, that's always been the definition of a prophet, although sometimes a prophet prophesies. God also is warning the king of a strong punishment for any harm done to his prophet. Wow. To say that Abimelech and his household were terrified would probably be an understatement. It says they were sore afraid. Man, no, that's beyond afraid. That's beyond being terrified. A God actually speaking to a king who thought himself God. Confronting Abraham, Abimelech had some very harsh things to say, which I'll attempt to quote in modern English from verses 9 and 10. What did you do to us? What did I do to offend you that you would lay on me and my kingdom such a great sin? Remember, Abraham's sin was lying about his relationship with Sarah. The great sin would have been Abimelech sleeping with Sarah. Then Abimelech accused Abraham of doing deeds against him that ought not be done. That's like accusing Abraham of doing something so unimaginably indecent and vile that it was completely beyond any normal behavior. In verse 10, which we read, the king asked the equivalents to, "What were you thinking?" What were you thinking in passing Sarah off as your sister? Well, we're going to get that in our next session. But I just wanted to comment. Although history bears out that Abimelech was vile, indecent, and an idolater himself, up to offering human sacrifices, unfortunately, he definitely had a point. See, I was convicted by this as well. I, as a Christian, have made some questionable, unwise decisions in the past, only to be confronted by somebody who didn't believe in Jesus or in God or anything else. What were his words of condemnation? It was, "I thought you were a Christian." Yes, it was in response to something I did that did not display my Christianity. He said, "I thought you were a Christian." And sorry to say this, folks, but that person had a valid